This episode is brought to you by our patron supporters. Today's patron of the day is Tim. Patrons get the show always ad-free and access to the extended episode with bonus content. If you don't want to miss all that, go to patreon.com/calltheline. That's patreon.com/calltheline.
We have so many seconds left before the music runs up.
Do I just do that way faster than you?
No, I a little faster, but not way faster. But yeah, you also go to the Patreon. The bonus show will be a continuation of it's gonna get sexy.
It's gonna get spicy today, I fear.
It's a sexy show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring it down though.
Welcome everyone to The Line Has a Podcast. I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Jimmy. You didn't skip me like I tried to skip you last week.
I love doing this. This feels like I'm taking control of the show now.
That's right.
It's Monday, March 17th, 2025, and today we're going to be talking about Minnesota State Republicans' controversial comments on Trump Derangement Syndrome, the economic impact of Trump's tariffs, the U.S. egg shortage and potential imports from Europe, the U.S. stock market's significant decline, and the Trump administration's consideration for military options regarding the Panama Canal. And
but we're going to rush those segments, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell people what we're going to do if you want.
I have some questions that I got from a Q&A that I had posted on my Instagram. It was an anonymous Q&A, and I immediately got a million questions about if I have an OnlyFans, and it pissed me off. And then I was like, I actually don't want to do this anymore, and I'm not answering these questions. So I didn't answer them on my Instagram story, but I screenshotted a bunch of them and saved them for this show. So we'll have some fun questions that are, some are like sex ed, relationship advice type things. And some of them are kind of personal. So
I want to say it's we're going to do sex ed and kind of sexy ed. It's like the two. It's a little more a little more broad, a little more personal. We're going to we're going to find the lines and just cross them.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, how much is a dozen eggs from your local grocery store? Do you know right now?
Ooh, let's find out. I want to say it's kind of similar to what it's always been.
We're definitely going up over here.
Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm up to $7.11 for large and $7.53 for extra large because of that avian flu.
Yeah. Let's see. Eggs. And you're doing Eggland's, right?
Yeah, because that's the most popular brand. Eggland's best.
Oh, actually, okay, so that's for a dozen and a half. For a dozen, $8.79. I think that went. Yeah.
That's a pretty big jump. Wasn't it like $6 last time?
I think it was. I thought it was also around $8.
Oh, I thought we were still under 50 cents an egg last time.
No, I don't think so.
I guess I don't remember for sure.
I don't think so. But also, for a dozen and a half, it's $11.
That's getting crazy.
It's a lot.
Bringing this up because the United States obviously facing a severe egg shortage due to the ongoing flu outbreaks. This referring to avian flu, leading U.S. authorities to seek egg imports from European countries like Finland, Denmark, Sweden, and the Netherlands. But here's the thing. They need the eggs. The egg shortage is across the world because this avian flu thing. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're doing an extra bad job managing it here because we are getting rid of all of these oversight agencies that would usually be trying to help us respond to it a little better. But on top of that, there are no guarantees in place. So one of the places they went to was Finland, and Finland was like, no, you guys are doing all kinds of crazy trade shit right now. We're not going to be exporting our eggs to you with no guarantees of how does our trade relationship work right now. Right. We're going to save you right now with eggs. And then next week you're going to be like, but now we're thinking a 50% tariff on all Finnish exports. What does Finland actually export besides beautiful husbands for co-hosts?
I would imagine, actually, I don't know.
No idea.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Apparently. Potentially eggs.
European eggs.
I've never looked up. I have to think, because of the region of the world they're in, I'll bet you there's some types of wood that we get a bit of wood from them, I'll bet. But let's find out. What does Finland primarily export? That's not how you spell that.
I feel like the eggs coming from Europe will be so delicious, though. They'll be $1 million, but it'll be like an orange yolk. You know?
They'll be right. They won't be messed up.
Right.
So there is Finnish machinery, some minerals, paper and paper items, which that makes sense because they are in a wooded part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Iron and steel a little bit, some vehicles a little bit, but forestry products mostly like wood and wood pulp. Wow, I'm so smart.
You are so smart.
I woodwork.
Big brain.
The Finns get my wood working. I thank you for laughing at my terribly dumb joke.
I liked it.
Maybe you're more receptive to them because Promise isn't here to treat me like her little brother, as the
I
comment
feel like
said.
she would
Little
like
brother.
it.
I know, I'm kidding. I just referencing that one comment from the person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jimmy has such little brother in it. And then also the comment, my favorite comment of the year so far was because Hazel and I hadn't done a show yet together. I had her on other shows on the line, but not together. And people being like, I really like Hazel because she actually isn't afraid to laugh at Jimmy's jokes because Jimmy's funny. Yeah.
We laugh at your jokes all the time. That's
the
crazy.
perception is that I'm immature.
Oh.
I don't know where they get it, and that y'all are scoffing at my immaturity. Anyway, fart joke.
Anyway, fart joke. Do we have a question of the day today?
I put the word no because we're going to be doing so many questions about sex that I figured people will want to answer those.
Okay.
And I can't seem to find what last week's was. So
Okay.
I don't. Yeah. I put poop jokes in the title. Did you see of the last episode? Poop jokes is it's the last word. It's episode 14, Not a Drag Queen, the unholy alliance of power, abuse, and poop jokes.
That's so funny because I was literally looking at the title of it, but I literally was just looking at the title of it and I did not see the poop jokes part.
My knee is featured in it. Me holding the iPad with the name Kamala Harris is on it. You look like you're laughing at something, and Promise looks very worried about whatever you and I are up to.
Yeah. I like that people liked that episode. Like someone commented on it about saying that it's like the most fun episode we've had so far. And like, that makes me happy because sometimes, sometimes I'm like, I can't tell how personal people want us to be versus like giving just news stories. And we yapped that episode.
By the way, I think we've talked in the past about, there's a subreddit called r/confidently incorrect. And it's like when people correct people very like actually matter-of-factly kind of assholey and they're actually wrong. And last week we were talking about breast milk and the stuff in breast milk, which is called, what is it called again? Colostrum. And I'm not kidding. One of the first comments was cholesterol. How is it you guys don't know what it is?
Oh my God.
We were not talking about cholesterol. We were talking about colostrum, which is different.
That's really funny.
And I love being corrected by somebody who is wrong, but with such confidence. How is it that you guys don't know what it is? Did you just try to shame us for something you are wrong about? How dare you?
Well, if they're wrong and strong, what are you going to do?
I don't know.
Wrong and strong.
Do you ever also, how bad do you ever have to resist? I have a tendency to want to make the joke that you shouldn't make in any given moment. Do you know what I mean? Where like somebody says something and you're like, oh my God, don't say this right now.
Don't say it.
And my brain goes like, I'm going to say it. But I didn't at the beginning. When you were talking about taking charge of the show, I didn't say yes, mistress. Okay. That was
I wish you did. That was good.
I thought about it. I wasn't positive. I was like, that might be one of the ones that makes her go, ooh.
You made up for it when earlier today you didn't make the hard drive joke.
I did too, though.
Well,
you said hard drive, and I said, well, I was going to put it on a floppy.
I said hard drive twice before you, which was impressive. An impressive display of your restraint.
That just means you weren't looking at the camera, because the first time you said it, I definitely made a face. So.
I did see the face.
We were talking about a subject relevant. We were literally talking about the hard drives that my sex tapes would be on.
Right.
So, of course, it's going to be a hard drive, not a floppy, was the joke.
Yeah. It was good.
Pretty good joke. I
thought it was good.
Anyway, how are your eggs? That is not how I meant it to come out.
My eggs are fine.
Or is it?
One will be dropping very soon. Thrilled about it. Can't wait. Can't wait for it to be over. Making me really sleepy.
Why can't you wait?
Because then it's over.
Okay, so you're excited for it to begin, so it's done.
So that it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. it just makes me so sleepy. And then I also realized later, it was so funny because when I posted my Q&A thing and then I got really upset about the OnlyFans thing, just because I've addressed this so many times, and the phrasing of the question really annoyed me because it was like, why are you so against having an OnlyFans? I was like, I'm not against, like, the assumption feels like it's that I'm against OnlyFans as a whole, which is like the
Yeah.
stupidest thing I've ever heard because I love sex workers. I've
Right.
had
You're
them on.
obviously not.
That's literally the reason I started a podcast like however many years ago, was to interview sex workers, and that's literally what my podcast was. So that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But like literally the answer is just because I don't want to. Anyway, I freaked out. Not freaked out. I had a little crash out that morning about it because it just felt really rude. And then
You know
someone.
what? I want a controversial, maybe even devil's advocate a little bit. You ready for it?
Sure.
Of course I want to. Look at me. Whoa, the white man wants to stand up for maybe it's not as so I think it
Crazy.
is rude, but I think people don't know it's rude. And I think what we're adjusting to is that we're a generation ahead of a lot of these people who are interacting, of not only a generation, a lot of these people, but also even within the generation of our generation that are thinking that that's appropriate, that it's also an emotionally stunted generation by the development of the internet. And so when I was thinking about it a lot, and I was like, oh my God, you guys gotta stop. That's fucking crazy. Why are you doing that? But then I remember reading a study about sex amongst like college age people, and even like how sex is looking for people when they're first starting to have sex, and how much more common it is for there to be an expectation of things that people have seen in porn to happen in those experiences. And so you're having like young people record the first time that they're having sex and wanting to like do things that are maybe a little bit more advanced, you might think, technique wise, or even more leaning into fetishy stuff, or like, you know, finishing the job on locations where it's kind of like, it's not really something you do early. Like early on, you're like kind of like
You're exploring.
figuring the things out, and that it's like much more, and that now something like when I was a kid, the concept of like, if you were going to I'm trying to think of like the right language to use in this, but if you were going to solely an individual's face,
Sure.
that would be like a very sort of like a special occasion, almost. If you heard that somebody was willing to have that done to them in college, they would automatically be deemed the sluttiest kind of slut, which was wrong as well. But now it's kind of like these are sort of default things, for better or worse, that people are kind of going to more almost dehumanizing forms, which is awesome with consent and an overall humanized relationship. Dehumanizing sex can be a lot of fun, but it's within the context of a very humanized relationship that is very consensual. And so I think a lot of that is getting lost. And so I'm not defending people actually doing it. I think that they're actually so emotionally disconnected from why that's a weird thing, because like during the pandemic, it became so popular to find out like people you knew back in the day suddenly had OnlyFans, and there's this idea of like, oh, but we've destigmatized it and stuff, that to just straight up respond to a person, they aren't conceptualizing the idea of like, imagine just meeting that person out and about and they're hot, so you ask them, oh, hi, so hello, you know, Misty, are you a porn star for a living?
Right.
Instead of asking what they do for work, just asking straight if they are a porn star. How rude that is. And so I think it's I think it's similar to that, like the way they're not necessarily having good discussions about consent and sex and people's comfort levels with different things. They're just jumping straight into these things. I think it might be similar to that, where it's like they genuinely don't realize that it's rude as fuck, because they don't think in terms of like, if somebody just met me and asked, are you a porn star? Would that be rude?
Or even just asking like for someone's nudes, because that's what you're doing. Like you're just asking me for nudes in a way that you think does not feel like you're crossing a line, but you're just asking me for nudes over and over again.
Right.
And I try to be understanding because I understand that my job is new and confusing for people. So like I get that and I can be sensitive to that. The thing is, I've answered that 800 fucking times on my platform, and it's not like I suddenly boomed overnight and have like double the amount of followers since the last time I did a Q&A. So there's no way. There were some people who were like, well, what if this is the first time people came across you? That's such a small group of people that like it's like, and also if I had an OnlyFans, don't you think I would have linked it at least once somewhere in my link tree?
Right.
Like it does not exist.
A person who has an active OnlyFans doesn't make it hard to find. So that's my main obvious contention with it, where it's like, why would you ask? Like, why would she make it hard to find if like you go look? And that isn't rude. Like if you see somebody who you feel like there's a sexual aspect to what they're presenting, to just go look and see if there's a link tree. Nobody's judging you for that.
Yeah.
But to come in and be like, I kind of do empathize a little bit with the or sympathize with the response of what if they never saw that before? Not necessarily as the people who are like new to you. And I would almost say like that's not the argument to have, because it doesn't matter whether or not they'd heard it before. It shouldn't be happening because realistically, I mean, I follow you. You and I are friends who are obsessed with each other. So we see all of each other's posts and stuff and respond to a lot of stuff. And I think I've only seen you address the not having an OnlyFans thing this most recent time personally. And yet I've seen a lot of stuff. But again, I would say like, that's not even the argument to have. The argument to have is you shouldn't do it.
Right.
It shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to Trump and we'll come back to sex stuff.
Yeah. Should we ad break or no? Should we wait?
We'll give it another minute. Let's jump in on because we're really going to go fast through these things. So let me get all of the like direct. I have an order I think I want to go in here. Look, there's not a ton of developments in the last week. Everything's kind of going in the same fascist way it was going. So I think I want to end on this one from Minnesota and just say the tariffs are really dumb. Partners like Canada, Mexico, and China are all expecting to have retaliatory tariffs. And right now, the new analysis that's coming out is basically showing that Republicans and people who voted for Trump will actually be disproportionately affected more than everybody else. That isn't say everybody's going to be affected, but ironically, it is going to be the labor class and people from like rural areas and Republican areas. They're actually going to get hit harder than other. You guys, the leopards are there, and you invited them for dinner, and then you kindly served them your face. The U.S. stock market has also lost $5 trillion in value over the last 3 weeks. And while I will emphasize once again, as I did when Hazel was on here, that the economy isn't really the stock market, but we do measure the economy by the stock market. And Donald Trump has been an absolute disaster of a president. And he wants to, well, this is really Biden, but Biden had nothing but growth. Like you want to say it's Biden, and yet everything that we can track these losses to are things like the uncertainty because of the tariffs, as well as other problems with interest rates and some global stuff as well. That, by the way, when you start tracking back to some of it, you can actually track some of these losses back to literally Trump's first term and the ridiculous, stupid shit he was doing, like giant tax cuts for corporations, which always have a temporary boom and then get corrected for later. He just wasn't expecting himself to be president when the correction came in. And then the only other thing before we hit the break here, and then we'll have one more story when we come back, and then we're getting into all that sexy shit. Y'all who stood up there and were like, oh, Donald Trump is the anti-war president. No new wars under Trump. Donald Trump is now basically getting everything geared up, and we are doing new strikes in Yemen, which is the genocide before Gaza that people back in his first term just completely ignore and are like, well, if you don't like the Bidens because of the supposed genocide in Gaza, well, you should get Trump because Trump already oversaw a big old Yemenis genocide in his first term and helped it. And now we're getting back into the genocide business, but also is now telling the U.S. military to prepare for military options, actual action, potential boots on the ground to take the Panama Canal. As in, he is exploring whether or not American soldiers are essentially going to go to war on the same piece of land we live on. That is like
what?
you can technically walk to Panama. The anti-war guy. He's anti-war. No, and yet this is what they are exploring right now. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Okay. Do you hear it?
No,
Now do you hear it?
I don't hear anything.
What the heck?
I have the volume low though. Is it the snores?
Hold on.
Oh, the ad break in. I was saying, there you go. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Now I do hear it.
Is it the snore?
I thought you were talking about your dog snores. I was saying, go ahead, Alyssa, like give your thoughts. But as you've got 20 seconds or so. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my thoughts are that once again, Trump making horrible decisions left and right. Once again, people saying, how could we have seen this coming? And once again, literally everyone saying it to them for the entire duration of his campaign. I'm not surprised. Everything he does is horrible and stupid.
They should switch out the elephant for a leopard. That's the new symbol of the Republican Party.
This episode is brought to you by the amazing people on patreon.com/calltheline, where you can get the show ad-free and you get the extended episodes where we do bonus shows, which is most of the time. Head over to patreon.com/calltheline and sign up today. Would you like to be one of the cool people who can
Something. I don't hear it.
You don't hear it?
No. Is the volume low down again?
It's up. Yeah, I'll do it again. Welcome back from the break. For some reason, I need to play all of the audio twice for Jimmy to hear it.
Maybe I needed to refresh after you refreshed.
Maybe.
Because I deleted all those files we didn't need before. I don't know.
Could be. Did you see the clip of Trump talking about daylight savings time, by the way?
No. What did he say?
He said that daylight savings time is terrible. You lose an hour, and if your grandmother is dying, she's on her deathbed, and then daylight savings come, you lose an hour of her life. Sorry, Granny, don't get to say bye.
Yeah, that's not how daylight savings works physically. Like that's some wild physics interpretation. Look, it's funny that he can mess up something that everybody, literally he picks something that finally everyone agrees on.
Right, and still fucks it up.
Like Incredible. Nobody likes daylight savings. And I feel like the biggest joke about if we think government is effective is the fact that for my entire life, I have been hearing Congress talking about getting rid of daylight savings time. And then they've never done it. Like, why haven't you done it? Fucking do it.
Literally, it would take almost no effort to do. I don't really understand.
And they're like, yeah, but this is better for farmers. Farmers have smart watch clocks now. Like, it does not change their life at all. Like, just do it.
Just do it.
They can get up at whatever time they need to, because nothing physically changes. Just the clocks change. And then we all begrudgingly switch to whatever it is. I'm just like, it's fucking nuts. It's so dumb.
It is.
Almost as dumb as do you remember a few years back? I think they even tried to run a presidency on it. There was like this independent campaign to try and make a universal time. They wanted
Yeah, I vaguely remember this.
Yeah.
That's so dumb.
Right now would be, because obviously it's 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. It'd be 5 a.m. everywhere right now. That's what time it is, people. You don't know. You don't know.
You don't know.
Last thing is before we get into the sexy questions. It's one of those stories that comes up where I'm like, I don't know if you've seen it as much as I've seen it, especially on like threads and stuff, where Republicans are just now in the most obvious ways, and I've been seeing it with theists too. They just take whatever is the criticism of them and say that's what the left is. Or like recently I've been seeing a lot of theists on threads say like atheism is based on emotion, not rationality. And you're literally like, fucking shut the fuck up.
What?
You guys literally have the concept of faith.
That's crazy.
Or they'll even say like atheism is faith-based as an insult. And it's literally like, guys, you say faith is a virtue. That's from your book. Faith is a virtue. What the fuck are you talking about? And so one of the ones we've talked about before is this thing called Trump Derangement Syndrome, which at some point basically was there trying to relabel their cult-like devotion to them. The fact that they lose their mind to support this guy. They completely give up any sort of critical thinking faculties and just wash out their personality with, I just am a Donald Trump follower. That's who I am. That's my entire fucking thing. And so now in Minnesota, this is so wild. Minnesota Senate Republicans have faced criticism for suggesting that Trump Derangement Syndrome could be considered a mental illness in a memo related to mental health legislation. They are actually trying to introduce legislation to have it recognized as a legitimate mental health condition.
To criticize him.
That if you are trying to criticize Donald Trump, you have Trump Derangement Syndrome. And think about like why you would want to qualify that. It's like the people who are pretending to like free speech, what would be the utility if not to then send people to mental hospitals for writing an article saying Donald Trump is fucking nuts? Because he is. The fact that like Trump Derangement Syndrome level 1, like the most intense level, should be anybody who says yes if you say, is Donald Trump sexually attractive?
Ugh, yeah.
If you say yes, you
go to hell.
To be tied up.
That's crazy.
You need to be restrained for the safety of all people. You are a danger to yourself and others if you say, but then from there, like, do you think he's smart? Totally. So he's a smart cookie. I think there are actual, in real existence, cookies which are smarter than Donald Trump.
I think so.
I think a pot brownie is smarter than Donald Trump.
Yeah, the IQ definitely, for sure. I think, I don't know. I've seen people kind of throwing away or throwing around the TDS stuff. Like I've even seen it in comments of some of our things.
Yeah.
And
oh, that's a big one.
I know. I'm so sleepy.
It's so early.
It's so early, and my period's coming soon. Sorry.
Don't apologize to them.
You're right. I shouldn't.
Yeah, I was just quoting the shirt.
I know. I was thinking about the TDS thing. Yeah. Anyway, just making it into something that's like you're like classifying people for criticizing a person. Like I can't see a more clear example of fascism and of propaganda just like being the norm.
Cult-like information suppression is what it is. I mean, it's you are in a cult and you want to now actually say that any critical information about your cult has to be mental illness.
Right.
Fucking insane.
Get out of here.
But then at the same time, it's like one of these things where it's like, that's so obviously dumb and stupid to us that how could they do that?
They will. They'll try.
They are fucked up in the head. It's like, it is projection. It's narcissistic projection. It's that which I am guilty of. I will accuse my fucking opposition. They are.
It's also just so much defensiveness because God forbid these people even for a moment in time admit that they might have been wrong. Like I think that there are some people that when they go to bed at night, they're like, I don't know. And they just will they would literally rather die and go down with the whole fucking MAGA cult shit than be able to actually say, I actually think maybe something is up and something's not right. And this is not going the way I thought it would.
These are the people who are so brilliant that literally the first term of Trump ends and everybody hates him after, right? Like all of his cabinet, none of his old cabinet voted for him. They all campaigned against him. Not none, but almost none. The overwhelming majority, dozens of these people campaigned against him. His own vice president, the Republican Party as it existed before have all basically been like, this guy is a fucking danger. He's a piece of shit. And then they put him back in as though that's not going to happen. All the people whose praises you are singing now because they seem more crazy, he probably will have more support at the end of this term than he did to the one prior because he has put such little bitch boys, such little yes men all around him. It's even men seems like, if you've seen Jason Miller or Stephen Miller, if you've seen either of them, very kind.
Yeah, that's generous.
Very, very kind to them. But it is, the absolute irony that they want to stick out and say anybody else doesn't follow. You should just follow the science. Like, bro, you think the earth is flat.
It's even the following the science even frustrates me when these are the same people who think that there are legitimately only two genders and that's it.
But that's the thing that they'll anchor on. It's like, because I learned from kindergarten cop that boys have penis, girls have vagina. And right. These are the type of people who brag, and they don't know that actually the current scientific literature would disagree with them, that gender is much more complicated than a simple binary, despite the fact that they also know that in a way, because they will measure how much of a man somebody is. They don't recognize that they are saying a spectrum exists when they're saying like, I've never met a Republican who I couldn't ask the question, hey, who's more of a man do you think, me or you? And they're always going to say them,
right?
Even though they're wrong.
Right.
But whatever, I'm much manlier than these fucking, like, they're all such, it's so funny, the alpha beta thing, and it's always the little beta bitch boys that I'm just like, bro, are you kidding me?
Well, because it's always interesting to me the people
Go whittle, you asshole.
It's always the people who are obsessed with being alpha that are, we literally were, I just like briefly said this earlier in our conversation, that like, are you only taking advice from men on how to do everything? Because then in that, if you are, then you are literally only trying to impress other men. And then you're going to turn around and tell me that you're an alpha and that
They're waiting for the girls to leave and then they all kiss.
Yeah, and literally that's what it feels like. Like when I think about like people taking advice from someone like Andrew Tate or something like that, aside from the crime, aside from the literal crimes, this is a person who does not have a sexual relationship that he doesn't have to coerce women into having with him.
Yeah.
And you think that this is a good, perfect example of someone who has successful relationship. You're going to take advice from someone like that? He literally can't get a girl to sleep with him unless he traps them in his house.
I don't want to see society collapse, but part of me would be excited to see how these alpha men would not survive.
No.
Andrew Tate, what the fuck's he gonna do?
I don't think
I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna save the world from the gym. Like, the fuck are you gonna do? Fucking bitch can't whittle. That's his problem. Go whittle something. Start there.
I mean, he'll just have a bunch of other men who protect him, which is, I think, all he's ever wanted is to have lots and lots and lots of men around him.
Will he though? Like, if society collapsed and we're like trying to like survive in this post-apocalyptic world, and the guy who brags that he doesn't read books, that's one of his brags. I don't read books. I learned the lessons of life. What good is he going to be in that world where you literally you will need hunters and gatherers and shit? What's that dude gonna hunt? What's that dude gonna build? What's that dude's gonna support? What's he gonna restore from the previous? Like, this is a guy who has money, and that is his biggest value. Which, don't get me wrong, in our world, that's what people value the most. But as far as him trying to like describe what is intrinsically male, my bisexual ass will be fucking shit up way more. I'll have running water, you guys fucking, you're a joke. You're a fucking joke. You guys couldn't do shit. You guys wouldn't survive shit. Jordan Peterson would be running around, well, I'm just going to, because I'm going to use a poem and then they'll just give me their thing. Like, all of them, you know what you would call fucking Andrew Tate, Tucker Carlson, you'd call them dinner. Like, they're all going to get eaten.
We need an animated short of, like, the end of the world, the end of days, and all of these horrible little side characters like following their little story of how they're going to figure it out. I would love to see that, and you have to do all the voices.
You know who would eat them is Joe Rogan. Because Joe Rogan actually will survive fine. He's got the survivalist skills and stuff. Like, that's the thing he's invested in. And they would all show up to his place and he would realize, I feel like he'd have the epiphany of like, oh my God, all of this time thought I was promoting like the alpha male lifestyle, and all of these dudes are just here to try and live off of me. All of these dudes are hoping they can get in my bunker and eat my venison and eat my, like that.
Yeah.
That's there, because there are a few of them out there that are into the survivalist shit, but it's not most of them. And so they'll all become leeches, and then you're gonna hear that Joe Rogan is throwing a little feast down in Austin. And it's all the people. It's all the people who were ever on his podcast before are now what he's serving to the audience.
I wouldn't be mad at that situation because it would be so much easier to get rid of them all if they were all in one place.
Yeah, I'm saying Joe Rogan would literally cook them and serve them up. I think he would. I think he'd be like, "Come on down, one last party down at whatever the name of his dumb club is, Spaceship Rocket Club, whatever you know what I'm talking about." He's got a club in Austin.
No,
he has a comedy club in Austin called.
I try to
Spaceship
have as much space from Joe Rogan and all of the media that he creates as
That's
possible.
Healthy. That's good.
I don't want to know.
That's
I don't
good.
want to know.
He's one of those dudes where you're like, you listen to his old stuff and it's like, oh my God, you were so close. You were so close to getting it right. And
I've heard that because I feel
right
like
past it.
Yeah, there was like a period of time where people really did respect him, and I don't have any desire. He
broadcasted skepticism, which was nice.
Yeah, I don't have any desire to like dive into his entire catalog and see the. I'm sure someone on YouTube created like a 2-hour-long character arc,
like
that
a
I
what
could
happened.
Watch. Yeah, exactly. Someone on YouTube already did a video essay. I would watch that.
He always had things he was dumb about, but the idea of him, he was much closer to Bernie than Trump, like to being much more like Bernie Sanders back in the day. I would never say he was like a full socialist, but you know, he very universal health care, welfare is a good thing. He would push back on people like Ben Shapiro's stupid racist ideas. And now he's just like, yeah, everything is the conspiracy. And he's obviously clearly not a Christian, but doesn't recognize that he is promoting Christian nationalism. That is where these crazy theories are coming from, these people. Like he's like, no, not Christianity, but maybe they are summoning demons by eating the androgen of children. Like, the fuck is wrong with you?
What are we talking about?
I don't know. I think one more break and then we get all to the sex education and fun questions for a while.
Let me know if you hear it.
It might be my fault though. Yeah, for some reason it was actually the volume being turned down on my end.
Do you hear it?
So I do hear it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
We're breaking out.
Yeah, we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
We're working it out on the remix. It's fine.
Remix?
I love the rumor that Joe Rogan is like 5'2". Apparently he's like 5'7", or like he's like an average height. Kind of short, but average.
No, he's definitely short.
But
average
like
for a girl, not a guy. No, I'm not trying to be a dick. 5'10" is average for men. He's like 5'6", 5'7".
Okay, I thought he was like, I don't know.
Have you ever seen him standing next to anybody? He's short. He's definitely short.
Really little. He's really
We'll be right back.
Would you like to be one of the cool people who can prove they were supporting this podcast right from the beginning? Well, you can. Head over to linemerch.com. That's linemerch.com and pick up some founders merch for The Line Has a Podcast that will only be available for a short time and features the rough draft drawn logo that soon will be updated to look less like it was drawn by a 3-year-old. That's linemerch.com.
Welcome back. Sorry, did you want to show me how short he is next to
I found it.
people?
It says he's 5'8", but to tell you the truth, I've seen him next to people, and I don't even believe that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like, I agree. I saw the same thing. I was like, he looks really little. But then I was like, I don't know, are all these pictures edited?
There's nothing wrong with being short for the record. It's unless you make it other people's problems. I will say, I've never thought he seems insecure about being short. Maybe that's why he's so into like. There's no doubt that Joe Rogan can like physically take a lot of people. He's great at martial arts and stuff. And there's a version of Joe Rogan from the past who was never perfect, but I liked. He's just nowhere near that guy now. He's like one of those ones that you feel like maybe there's hope for one day that he will break out of because you can see in some of the more recent stuff, which I only see what people share on like leftist podcasts. Right. You can see the way he's getting kind of uncomfortable with some of the stuff that's going on, but he's like trying to make it work. And I don't know if what he's mostly been doing is just chasing the money and seeing like what is getting him more audience. And that's what he's reacting to. Something weird happened during COVID where he went from being like ideologically pretty centrist, but like I said, he was closer to Bernie than certainly than Trump, to now he's like he used to push really hard against people who were anti-abortion. And now he just like fucking was like, anyway, I used to say you don't get to tell my daughter that she has to have her rapist baby. I take it back. You can. Like, that's basically what's going on now. Because he used to be like a great girl dad and would be seeming like he was defending politically his daughter's future. And then he's like, oh, I just remembered, I'm rich. My daughters will always have abortion access. So, like, I don't know. It's really disappointing and sad. Like I said, he was never wonderful, but weird things happened around COVID to a lot of people. Like, don't get me wrong, Elon Musk has always sucked and he's always come from a sucky. But the people who act like it's never been different, like it didn't change, like he didn't change, that he wasn't still fundamentally more aligned with an almost softly leftist. Obviously, he was always a capitalist, but you know, he would have been a guy you would have counted to support Medicare for all back in the day.
Yeah.
He's a guy who, like, his company is supposed to be in response to climate change, even as he's doing great things with electric cars, but also like offsetting all of that by the pollution from his rockets. So there was always hypocrisy and stuff. But the idea that he would be the full on, like, I'm going to go and just call random people on Twitter the R word, that was always there, and that he's like just going full fascist for cosplaying a Christian nationalist when he, once again, not a Christian. And you know what? Nobody brings up one thing about him that I feel like I need to make a more dedicated video on.
Please do.
About what might be behind it all. Everybody has forgotten that he believes, as far as his like religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs, outside of this world beliefs go, Elon Musk believes we live in a simulation. Like
currently he still believes that?
He has never withdrawn that belief. And his old thing was that, well, when you do the math, it seems very unlikely that we're in base reality. Like that's his whole shtick. I'm getting better. It's not good yet, but I'm getting better. But you know, when we talk about it, it's fucking anyway. Yeah, he and I'm honestly sitting here going like, maybe that's the explanation. Maybe he's now not only it's like a solipsistic video game he thinks he's in where he's just trying to get some kind of high score and see how much shit he can swing in. Like there's such chaos to the different ideological swings he's taken that to me it almost makes more sense that he just doesn't believe any of us actually exist, that he's just playing the game. Yeah. Now that's not simulation. Simulation theory doesn't have to be solipsistic like that. But he's behaving like somebody who has a full-on, like, because it's just a simulation, my experience is the only one that matters.
Right.
And I feel like no one's bringing that up to the Christians who support him. Like, hey, you know he doesn't believe you exist, right?
Well, because it's going to sound so conspiratorial to them that, like, I don't think it's even worth... They're not going to believe that.
I mean, it's on video. It's not a conspiracy of, like,
but when has that ever made a difference for these people?
I feel like these are the types of things people need to ask him now
They should, yeah. If they ask him now, that's one thing. But like, if you're gonna pull the tapes, these people will find a way to justify literally anything, and we know that because look who they put into office. And like one of the things, and I've been thinking about this so much recently that like, as all the economic stuff has been falling apart, as the economy has been falling apart. And there have been people who are like, how could we have seen this coming? Yeah. How could we have seen this? Well, I don't know. Maybe like all the Nobel Prize winning economists who literally told you that this was going to happen. Maybe that would be it. But those are like, this is the group of people who know that and still said, how could we have seen this coming? So I don't think that if you show them a video from even like a year ago that they would care.
It's funny. There's an economist, an economics professor on some show this week that was talking about how like literally we talk about tariffs like Trump is doing for decades. We've been talking about those in colleges. Like, can you believe people used to do this stupid thing? Like it is the most base form of dumb economic policy to use tariffs in this way. And until Trump came along was basically a punchline in economics classes. It's if I could ask him directly, like say I'm tasked with talking to him. The first question I would be, do you believe Jesus Christ existed and was resurrected? I'd ask him that directly. And then I'd ask him more about his relationship with, if he considers himself a Christian, what he thinks of people who are Christian. And then I would ask him more, like there are more questions that all these people who think they support him don't even realize he's not on their side. He's on his side. And he sees a way that he's going to get more power, which is what it is about right now, is power, by he had no chance at power with the Democrats, but he has a chance at power basically being a proxy president with the Republicans, which is what he realistically wants. He wants to feel like the emperor of the world, even though he thinks he's James Bond, but he looks just like a Bond villain. It's weird he's not stroking a cat all the time. Instead, he's just using his child as a human shield.
He does look like a Bond villain.
He does. He's got the scowl. The Bond villain scowl.
He's so ugly.
You expect blood to start coming out of his eye.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd ask him directly, what do you believe about climate change? Is climate change a thing? What do you believe about the age of the earth, the age of the universe? What do you believe? Literally just direct things that these fucking people don't believe. And he is supposedly antithetical to their existence. Donald Trump at least pretends to be a Christian. I don't think Elon would. And then I'd ask him about simulation theory. I'd ask him, do you believe we are in a simulation? Do you believe we live in base reality?
Dumb and arrogant enough to answer that question without even thinking about like how it's going to look, I think.
And the cult would come and defend
honestly.
it in some way.
Yeah, they would. They'll justify it. No problem.
Yeah, they'll make it up to them. Well, we don't need perfect people. Blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, he thinks that you don't exist and you are scum, honestly. Right. All of you are to the ends of him having more power. And that is he likes you if you agree with him, and he thinks you are scum and will call you a pedophile on Twitter and get you covered in death threats, even in response to fake stories. Like how he got the, I'm trying to remember which actress it was, but there's a black actress that basically he shared a fake story that she was replacing Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. Just didn't look into it at all, just accepted it, believed it, and shared it out with the caption like Disney sucks, and got her flooded with fucking death threats and rape threats and shit. Just doesn't care that he has that kind of power, but then complains about other people abusing their power when he has the most social power of anybody in the history of the world, and he utilizes it over petty personal shit. He's such a fucking sack of garbage.
He's such a loser.
Let's talk about penises and vaginas now. Let's move to the...
Okay.
So, by the way, people, for what you're about to listen to, a lot of this is kind of the stuff that often happens in the bonus show. More of the like personal fun sexy questions. But we just thought it'd be fun on a Sunday to not have to put as much work into the show, is mostly what I was thinking. Just talk about what we know.
Yeah.
Though in reality, we've already done 48 minutes. So it's not like we didn't do basically a whole show on the...
Yeah, for sure.
On the stuffs.
Yeah, I think so. These are questions that I got, when I did the Q&A, and
then we're also going to mix in some of the cards, right? Too.
Yeah, I have some of the cards too. Okay, well, I don't even know if we're going to need them because I have so many of these, and they range. So we'll see. If we need them, I'll grab them. Okay, so the first one, I actually think you would actually be a better person to answer this question than me.
Okay.
Which... Now I'm wondering if you are even as open about this and would answer this on here. So I don't know. Will you remember to cut this out if you don't want it in there?
I hope so. I'm so anxious.
Or should I wait for the bonus show?
Is it somehow about my personal life in a way I can't speak about in vague terms?
No.
Okay, then
I don't think so. Okay. I don't know. Whatever. I'll just read it, and then we'll just know it's like at the 49-minute time stamp if you need to cut it out. Okay. Is there a way to show on your dating app profile that you're kinky without being too obvious? I'm a sub with fetishes and want to convey this without being weird. Thanks for your time.
Oh, I think if you are looking for a partner to explore kinky things with, I think you just need to make sure that that's the app you're using. But,
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, I think it's the app. Like, if you...
What fetish do you think that I have that I'm not public about?
I don't know if you're public in general about like what your like sex life is like. Like, I don't remember because we talk about, sometimes I get like, I think especially when we're doing the podcast because it's recorded and it's not live, I forget like what we're sharing when we're recording and when we're not recording. So I don't remember.
It's okay.
But yeah.
Some people do put it in their Tinder bios though. Like I've seen in Tinder bios, like, they'll be saying like, emotionally I like this and this, but physically I have more chemistry with somebody who's more into the dummies. Mm-hmm. Like people do put that in, but there are apps like Field out there where you can just straight up look for if fetish fulfillment. I don't know that I would if you're looking for somebody you're gonna fall in love with and stuff, I would try to find somebody who your sexual chemistry is mostly based on an openness to try things and like and explore there, more than I would say you need to find somebody who's already experienced at your fetish.
Yeah.
Because then you're like really limiting your pool. And look, there are plenty of guys who use the word dom to mean I'm a abusive
Oh
sack
my
of shit.
God. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. That's a great answer.
Thanks.
Wow. See, I knew you'd be great at that question. Okay. Next one. Genuine sex question from a male. My fiance and I have only used lube a few times. Is that a problem, or is it okay if we're still enjoying it without using it? That was such like a funny question.
Yeah.
Because
You forget what other people don't know.
Yeah, well, that's why sometimes one of the other questions I saw, and I didn't screenshot it, I don't think, but it was like, how do you answer questions that you feel like they should know the answer to without being condescending? It's like, well, because like you have to just meet people where they're at. All that to say,
you don't know what you don't know.
you don't know what you don't know. And like I talk about using lube all the time, so I think that this person is probably assuming that they're missing out on something by not using it. But if you're enjoying it, it literally doesn't matter. It's just it's a tool like everything else. And wetter is better. Like you are enjoying it now, and you probably would enjoy it more if you use lube more often.
Oh, I don't know if I agree with that.
Really?
Better is better. No. You can definitely over lube something and have a loose sensation because it's like too wet. It's
yeah. You can.
You don't even. Yeah. That's
you
definitely
can,
like
but most people
possible.
I feel like don't do that.
Yeah. So like I would say there's a certain part of a body that you shouldn't try without lube at all.
For sure.
Ever.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, if we're talking about like, typical, the phrase is as needed.
Mm-hmm.
Use it as needed. And if you never need it, then don't. And I know like with my own like tactile things and like mental things I have to get over, I might also not enjoy it as much just because it's going to introduce a new sensation or new smell or something that I don't like the feeling of if it gets on my hands and things like that. It's not that big of a deal, but I don't know. Anyway, it's not a requirement. It's an as needed device.
For sure. And all things in sex, if it feels good to you, then that's what you should do.
Yeah.
If it's consensual and it's fun for everyone included, then that's what you should do.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, so someone said you put a video on a while back about the difference between being a responsive sexual person and something I can't remember. It was super informative, and I've been wanting to show it to my partner, but I can't find it. Is there any way you can find it or do a video explaining this? Which I should actually do like another video on my Instagram about this. What they're talking about is responsive desire and spontaneous desire. It's a theory of the way that people respond to arousal or not respond, or not, whether they need or don't need arousal to feel, or hello, how am I saying this? I'm tired. It's a way to describe if someone needs sexual stimulus to start the arousal process physiologically. So there are some people who are, and this is a theory, so, take with it what you would like to. There are some people who would be in the responsive category, and people who are in the responsive category group need sexual stimulus to start to feel aroused and start to feel sexual desire. So that could be like in conversation, or like being touched or hugged a second longer or kissed a second longer, or even just seeing their partner is like that's stimulus in some way, like signaling to your brain, I might be interested in whatever. There are other people who are part of the spontaneous desire group. In that group, like a rough gust of wind and we're ready to go. Like that's sort of like they're ready to just at any time, they could have sex at any time. And for the responsive desire group, they need a little more warm up. They need the stimulus to like signal to their brain that they might actually be interested in doing this. And when they have studied this theory, it seems relatively split 50-50 whether people are responsive or spontaneous. And the split is not necessarily, I think the assumption is that women are in the responsive category and men are in the spontaneous category. And it's not really split like that at all. It's about even through the genders, which is interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for them to study it more because I'll bet the spontaneous isn't as spontaneous as it seems. I'll bet you there is like a physical reality to it all that
For sure. It's
because
like
nothing is really spontaneous. Like
right.
nothing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's like how they're measuring spontaneous is like you obviously are seeing the person that you're wanting to have sex with in some way when you're wanting to initiate it. So there is something there, but it's a much different process than for people who are going through the responsive desire cycle. So like for some people in responsive desire, in the responsive desire group, it might take like 20 minutes of foreplay, 20 minutes of like making out or whatever it is for you to even begin to start to feel like the desire system going.
Yeah.
So
For me, it's just raise an eyebrow.
spontaneous.
I'm there. Oh yeah. There for sure. Like that's what. But when I think about it, clearly I'm in that category. But I'm like, but I can also feel. It's kind of like how in recent years I can classify my depression better, where I can feel when it doesn't make me less depressed, and I still, but I can feel when it's like, oh, I'm getting chemically assaulted right now.
Yeah.
Like the chemicals in my brain are fucking me up,
Chemically
and are just like,
assaulted.
yeah, it can, I guess, help me get through it a little bit more, and it can help me communicate to somebody like, look, I'm gonna seem like I'm sad and depressed right now because I am. But it's not real. It's like, it's chemicals. It's not. So the more you're going to try to be like, oh, is it because of this? Do I need to cheer you up over? Nah, I probably need to go for a walk in the sunshine. But the thought of that repulses me. And the thought of it being a simple solution like that repulses me. So I'm probably also going to probably like put that off, even though I know better, even though I'm better at now trying to go and do those things. I kind of woke up in one of those states today where I was like, I am chemically wrong right now. So I'm going to leave the house and go get fresh air. And improved things. Didn't fix it, but improved things.
Chemically assaulted is the way that I'm going to talk about when I'm having like a bad emotional day. I'm being chemically assaulted. I think that's really
because that's what I honestly feel like my spontaneity is not really. It's kind of like I feel like I always have a bit of a minor chemical stream of sexual endorphins going because I am pretty much in an always good to go state. But then sometimes sometimes it rains and the stream floods.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're just literally like, the right breeze, and I'm there.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm there.
I think it's kind of like
underwear.
Oh, nice airflow.
Bamboo, actually. Bamboo Cool. That's my favorite brand these days. It's very nice.
That's
very
interesting. Okay, this question I'm excited for you to answer because I don't think I know whatever this story may or may not be, but what is the worst date you've ever been on?
Worst date? Do you know yours right off the bat?
Yeah, but I don't remember if I told it on the podcast already, the chocolate mouse story. I think I did.
Yeah, tell the quick version again, though.
Okay, I went on a date with a guy, and he read pesto gnocchi, pesto no chichi, and then, which is crazy because I said it first, so that means he heard me say it and was like, watch this, and then said it wrong, and then I said, oh, he ordered the same thing as me because the waiter was confused, and he turned to me and was like, I thought it was, what do you mean? And that was weird. And then he proceeded to tell me that what he does for fun is take an edible and walk around New York City by himself for 6 hours every day of every weekend, and he's been doing that for months. It's giving serial killer a little bit. And then we got to dinner. He also would not stop trying to hold my hand the whole dinner, which made me really uncomfortable. Then we got to dessert, and he said that he really likes chocolate. And the two things on the menu that were chocolate were a chocolate lava cake and a chocolate mousse. And so he asked the waiter which would be better to share between two people, the chocolate lava cake or the chocolate mouse. And he said it so seriously. So seriously. And it was just like one of the funniest things I've ever heard. And then at the very end of the night, he still tried to kiss me. And when he did that, which is insane because he thought that the date went well enough, he could do that. That's crazy. He tried to like put his hand up the side of my sweater, and I pushed his hand away, and I was like, hello? Absolutely not. And he said, aren't you a sex coach? Shouldn't you be telling me what you like? And I said, that's exactly what I'm doing. Hello? And then he still proceeded to text me to try and make another date with me. And he was the kind of person where I was like, most of the time I would prefer to be honest, but I was like, there's something not right about this man, and I don't really want to get into all that. And so I just told him that I was really busy and I was just not going to have time anytime soon. I'm traveling a lot, which was true at the time, actually. And he responded and was like, yeah, no problem. If you still need a date for your sister's wedding, let me know, which is insane. And I didn't answer that. And he followed that up by saying that he does charge by the hour, though.
Oh, man.
It was bad.
I have nothing to compare to that.
It was bad.
Like, everything I have that's bad wouldn't be, like, on the date that itself. I definitely had, like, some, like, near bullet misses. What is it called? Like, I really dodged a bullet. Where, like, before you get to that first date thing, you're, like, sort of texting with a person, and then they sort of reveal themselves to be wildly monstrous. Because as far as dates go, first of all, I wouldn't say I do a lot of conventional looking dating in general, but when I do, I have a few really great first date stories. Like there was this beautiful one that happened on Christmas Eve, and we end up like walking through downtown Denver, and the lights are all everywhere, and then we go up to see the lights from this garage, and there's a homeless ex-pastor there who I just lied to about who we were. I just like made up with this person where I was like, oh, we were visiting Denver right now. We're about to drive up to Montana and get married. And this homeless pastor married us before
That's so cute.
It was a really adorable like story. And it's happening at like 1 a.m. So we're also not getting stabbed. And anyway, that person I ended up dating for quite a while. But as far as like bad stories go, I feel like the only one I can think of that like came to mind initially was I went on a date with one person before I left Denver, which is like I think a person I met on Tinder, and had like a really, really good night. But it was like one of those nights where it had been a few years since I had tried dating like that in a way. And in my mind, all I needed to do was like make her laugh and have her have a good time. And I did that. And then like, and you know, afterwards she messaged me, she's like, yeah, it was great and stuff. And then a few days later I was like, hey, I'd like to get together again. And she's like, I don't think I want to. And I was like, oh, word. Okay. Why not? And she had said, she's like, you're funny and it was fun, but you like never asked at all about me, anything about me, anything. And I was like, and I literally said to her, I was like, yo, you're right. I 1000%.
Interesting.
I was like, I'm sure that this was obvious, but in my mind, all I was thinking about is like, show you a good time, make you laugh and all of that kind of stuff. And that probably showed you a lot of me and made you feel a lot like I wasn't interested in knowing much about you, but more. And so like, we ended up being friendly after that and stuff, but yeah, that's like the only one that popped into mind was like one where I was like, you want to initially have that like thing of like, what? I gave you such a good time. How could you? But then I just thought about it for a second. I was like, yo, yeah, you're right. Like,
that's
fucking,
so nice that you were able to do that. And like, first of all, to validate that experience for her, but also that's like a really great example of like being clear is kind. And in that moment, her sharing that with you meant that you got to like, you gained new awareness that day. And that's cool. Yeah. Like, that's really nice. And so it's nice that she shared that with you because now you know. Because that happens a lot. Like, it's a meme that went around for a while, and I've definitely posted it before, where it's like, it was a tweet. It was like, men will be like, oh my God, I like you so much. My brother in Christ, you haven't asked me a single question about myself. Like, it happens a lot. So, I don't know.
Which is funny because I've also then ran into it too.
Yeah, for sure.
Posted about it on Twitter and I didn't post enough details, but this is back when Twitter was less of a hellhole. And I was like, yo, if I've asked you 10 questions on Tinder and you still have not even asked like back a single question, not just didn't ask a question, didn't like ask for my answer to the same question back. Right. I was like, don't expect a date. Like, yeah. And people were like, bro, that person wasn't interested in you. And I was like, no. And I get it. Like, that's what usually if a guy was saying like, I basically was asking, getting an answer and then just like a cold stop, that is what was happening. But she was surprised when I then wasn't interested in going out. Like, I was like, word. All right, cool. So this sucks. Like, and you kind of suck. I don't know. Anyway, that was, it was an interesting time.
That is really interesting. And actually, Someone asked for advice for late relationship bloomers in their early 30s. So I feel like that kind of like rolls into it. Well, ask questions, be interested in the person.
Sure. Yeah.
And also like
okay.
Don't overthink it. Like if you like when you're trying to find a partner, like if you're trying to be in a relationship, like you're trying to find someone that you have stuff in common with, that's easy for you to be around, that you can be like open and honest with, because that's what's going to make all of it successful. Just being as open, honest, and vulnerable as you can with a person that makes you feel safe enough to do that with.
If you start to notice after several years that you've been in a lot of relationships, and either during the relationship, before the relationship, or shortly after the relationship, you find out that almost everybody you date without fail will be, or has been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, you probably need to go work on some stuff in therapy.
That's so funny.
Because you are susceptible to people with untreated borderline personality disorder.
Are you speaking
and that
from
probably
experience?
means you have some stuff to work through. Oh yeah. I used to joke that like me being attracted to a person is the number one criteria for having borderline personality disorder.
Oh my God. That's really funny.
It was this thing of like people, like, we're not talking about the people who, because there's obviously going to be people go through the therapy, you're stigmatizing it, da, 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 da. But it's like, when you say I'm stigmatizing it, what are the symptoms of borderline? You know what I mean? It's like deflective narcissism and shit like that. Like, are there go-to communication states and things? The symptoms are, I'm not trying to roast them. Their diagnosis is. And so like, for sure, people can go get treated for it, and they can, but it is one of those nefarious ones where people with borderline, they can either get better if they actually want to get better. And then people who don't want to get better will sometimes go to therapy and actually become worse because they learn like therapy speak and how to manipulate the therapist and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, you got to hope that the person, if you stick with them, they're in category A, not category B. Therapy can actually make it worse, but for people who are genuine and wanting to pursue getting better, they can get better. Anyway, I didn't get canceled after last week, so I don't even know why I'm worrying about it. Do you know what was so surprising?
What?
Y'all remember after the show where I was like, how come you guys did not back me up on things I know you agree with me on?
Yeah.
Because I was like, there were times I said things and you guys were so silent that I'm like, I'm going to get messages about how like you made them very uncomfortable kind of shit. I was like, bro, I was out there just fucking
I know,
dangling.
you're laying your life on the line.
And literally, it's apparently nobody
On the Line has a podcast.
Everybody was fine with that. That's nice. That's good.
Thanks.
She gets $5 every time she says it.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Yeah, no one disagreed. Apparently people were like, no, we're ready to acknowledge some of these hard truths about
They were ready.
like how women
They've
treat
been
each other,
primed.
for example.
Okay. Do you want?
Yeah, go on.
Do you want another?
But anyway, borderline people aren't hopeless, but I dated them almost exclusively for a decade, and it turned out I was like seeking out, because of own problems, those relationships. I'm susceptible to people who are not handling their borderline well.
Well, that's a good learning for you.
Yep. I'm now with somebody who I love very much who couldn't have borderline. Like,
She's so sweet.
if anything, I think she's also susceptible to people like that.
Yeah.
I think we're two susceptible people who found each other, and it's just the most wonderful thing.
That's like one of the things I think. I was talking to my guy about this recently, like how he was like, I don't think that opposites attract as much as people think they do. And I was like, I think you might be onto something. Obviously everyone's different, but we were joking about it like between the two of us, but we both are very similar in like, we both will overextend ourselves for people that we love and care about. Like, if I say I'm going to be somewhere, come hell or high water, I will be there, like, to the best of my ability. I will stretch myself thin. Like, I will do anything I have to do to, like, I am very living in both to as much as I can. And he's also very similar in that way. And that's the first time I've ever, like, dated anyone who was like that. Because I usually am the one who's, like, driving to a different state and flying to a different state and like remembering all the things and sending care packages and whatever, and like never getting any of that in return. And for the first time ever, I am getting like baby girl treatment, and it's crazy. Aww. So anyway, I don't know what made me think of that. Oh, you and your lady being similar in that way.
Yeah.
Anyways, do we want to do more? One more, maybe?
One more and then a couple more on the bonus show.
Okay.
We'll get the real spicy ones on the bonus show.
Okay. So let's see. Let's do this one here because I think this is helpful for the people who listen to this channel. Why is it so hard to process and deal with the impact of purity culture? I just want to be better already.
Because it's basically programming.
Yeah.
It's like, it's when you're a child, you're taught to just trust adults. And during that period of time, we evolved to trust adults to help us survive. So it was like a matter of, I'm telling you not to go in those bushes because you'll die. Mm-hmm. And now it's like you have programmed in your head, I'm telling you not to go in those bushes or you'll die. Thank you. So it's, I mean, it's just so deeply programmed. It's what it's the foundations of your personality. And so it feels a little bit like you not only have to deprogram that out, but that you might lose some part of yourself. It's you can almost be intimidated and scared of being sexually forward and open. Mm-hmm. People want to speak very sexually progressively, but have internal fears about being perceived not just by others as like a slut, mm-hmm. but perceiving themselves as a slut. Mm-hmm. So it's all that shit.
Yeah. And shame is a really, really powerful emotion and a really powerful tool. And purity culture hinges on creating an immense shame for people. And that's I think shame is the worst emotion that humans experience. Because it's like all of the ugliest, ickiest feelings in the world mixed into one. It's like being upset and being angry and embarrassed and feeling some level of grief for all of the versions of yourself that you have to sort of now come face to face with. It's shame is just god awful. And so, but it also, purity culture creates this this story in our head that will play over and over and over again. That's if I do X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to be a less worthy person. I'm going to be a less worthy partner. I'm going to be a slut. I'm going to be all of these things. And hearing that message played over and over in your head because it's programmed, like you said, that's, to undo that takes consistent work and consistently reminding yourself that those things are not true and that that's a story that was created around your circumstances and actually not the truth.
Go put your bip in a bop, people. It ain't no big deal. I bipped my bop.
Put your bip in a bop.
Anatomically, what's so bad?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
What did you do even? Nothing. Basically shook hands as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. Someone in the comments is not going to like that at all.
I like your friend's shirt. What was it? Sex before hand holding? Love it.
Yes. Sex before holding hands. Hilarious. Yep. Insane.
Yep.
Okay. Are we going to the...
Let's go to the bonus show. We got to play the outro first.
Yep. Do you hear it?
I have to turn my volume manually up again for some dumb reason.
We're in outro.
Yeah, I hear it.
Okay, wonderful. I like how
Bop your boops.
We're matching today.
Bibbidi bobbidi bobbidi. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not wearing merch. Go to linemerch.com. Founders merch is only going to be available through the rest of March. So if you want that early on, rough sketched merch, it's probably only going to be through March. I haven't finished the new one.
I can't wait to see it.
I don't even know for sure what it's going to be yet because we are going to be inviting some more people in to join us as well. So that may affect it a little bit, but end of March, limited time. Let's just say limited time. We're getting closer to the end. So go linemerch.com. And if you want to come for the bonus show, patreon.com/calltheline. Hell yeah.